Welcome back to Women of Worth, the podcast dedicated to helping you live a life that's true to who you are. Today, we're tackling a topic that so many of us face: comparison. In a world where we're constantly seeing others' successes on social media and around us, it's easy to wonder if we're falling behind or missing out. But here's the truth: your journey is yours to celebrate, and no one else's achievements can ever diminish your own. In today's episode, we'll explore why comparison can hold us back, share real-life stories of women like Deborah, Jessie, Marie, and Ruby who learned to break free from it, and discuss practical ways to focus on what matters most: your own growth, your own goals, and your unique journey. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We release new content every week, with tips and stories that empower you to live a joyful, fulfilled life. And if you know someone who could benefit from this message, please share this episode with them, because we're all on our own paths, and each one deserves to be celebrated. Now, let's get started. Here's how you can break free from comparison, celebrate your own journey, and embrace every step along the way.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think we all struggle with sometimes: comparison. It's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, especially as women.
Yeah, especially with social media and everything these days, it feels like there's just this constant pressure to measure up in every area of life, you know, careers, relationships, appearances, everything.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this never-ending checklist of things we're supposed to achieve. And when we see others seemingly doing it all so effortlessly, it can be really discouraging.
Right. And that's exactly why we're diving into this really interesting article today, all about how to break free from that comparison trap and truly celebrate our own unique journeys.
I love that. It's like giving ourselves permission to just be ourselves, embrace our own path, even if it looks different from everyone else's.
Totally. And the article really digs into why comparison is such a problem in the first place. You know, it highlights how it's this natural human instinct, like we're wired to compare ourselves to others.
Yeah, it's like this primal thing, right? To see how we stack up against the rest of the tribe. But the article really emphasizes how comparison can turn toxic when we let it take over.
Yeah, it's like we start holding ourselves up to this impossible standard, this perfect image of what we think our life should look like based on what we see from others. And it's just a recipe for feeling inadequate and unhappy.
So true. It becomes this downward spiral where we lose sight of our own goals and values and start chasing after something that's not even authentic to us.
Right. We get so caught up in what everyone else is doing that we forget to ask ourselves what we truly want. And then the article gets even more interesting because it introduces us to these four women: Deborah, Marie, Jessie, and Ruby, each with their own unique story about how comparison has impacted their lives.
Ooh. I love a good personal story. It makes it so much more relatable,
Exactly. And Deborah's story is really fascinating. So she's this super successful graphic designer, like she's doing really well for herself, but she's constantly comparing her career trajectory to her friend who's now this high-powered executive.
Ah, the classic career comparison. So many of us fall into that trap.
Oh, for sure. And the article points out how this is a perfect example of how sneaky comparison can be. It can creep in even when we're objectively successful and happy with our choices.
It's that nagging feeling that we're somehow less than, just because someone else's path looks different.
Exactly. And then there's Marie's story, which I think a lot of people will relate to. So she's happily single, totally content with her life, focusing on her personal growth and her own goals.
You go, Marie.
Yeah.
Independent woman, rocking her own path.
Yes. But then social media starts bombarding her with all these engagement and baby announcements from her friends. And it starts to make her question if she's missing out, even though she was perfectly happy before.
Oh man, social media can be such a double-edged sword, can it?
Totally. And Marie's story shows how societal expectations, especially for women, can really fuel the comparison fire. It's like there's this unspoken timeline we're all supposed to follow.
Get married, have kids, buy a house, all by a certain age. It's so much pressure.
Right. And it can make us feel like we're failing if we're not checking those boxes in the right order. And then the article brings up Jessie's story, which is another really common struggle. She's constantly comparing her appearance to the seemingly perfect bodies she sees online.
Oh yeah, body image is such a huge issue, especially with the unrealistic beauty standards that are everywhere these days.
It's so true. And the article talks about how this constant comparison just chips away at our self-esteem and can make us feel inadequate in our own skin.
It's like comparing yourself to a filtered and airbrushed version of reality, which is just setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Exactly. And lastly, we have Ruby, a dedicated mom of 2 who starts comparing her parenting style and her kids' behavior to what she sees from other perfect moms on social media.
The mom guilt comparison trap. That one hits hard.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. And Ruby's story shows how comparison can creep into literally every area of life, even something as personal and important as parenthood. It's like this pressure to present this picture-perfect family life, which just makes us feel like we're constantly falling short.
It's so easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
But the article doesn't leave us hanging, right? It offers some solutions to all this comparison craziness.
It absolutely does. And it's not just vague advice either. It gets really specific about how to actually break free from this cycle and start celebrating our own awesome journeys.
I love that. So what's the first step? Where do we even begin to tackle this whole comparison thing?
Well, the article says the most important thing is self-awareness. It's about really paying attention to those moments when you feel the urge to compare yourself to someone else. Like, what triggers those feelings?
That's interesting. So it's like shining a light on those moments where we're slipping into that comparison mindset.
Exactly. Once you start noticing those triggers, whether it's certain people, situations, or even those social media accounts that make you feel less than, you can consciously choose to shift your perspective.
So like in Deborah's case, maybe she realized that every time she scrolled through her friend's LinkedIn profile, she started feeling insecure about her own career choices. And just being aware of that could help her break that pattern, right?
Exactly. And by acknowledging those feelings, she can start to focus on what she genuinely loves about her own job and career path.
I see. So it's about consciously choosing to focus on the positive aspects of our own lives rather than dwelling on what we think we're lacking.
You got it. And speaking of shifting our focus, the next step the article suggests is all about limiting social media usage.
That's a big one. Social media can be such a breeding ground for comparison, right? It's like this highlight reel of everyone's seemingly perfect lives.
Totally. And the article talks about being intentional about how and when you use social media, maybe setting specific times to check it, or even unfollowing those accounts that trigger those feelings of inadequacy.
Like maybe Jessie, with her body image struggles, could unfollow those accounts that are constantly promoting unrealistic beauty standards and instead start following accounts that celebrate body positivity and diversity.
Exactly. It's all about curating your online experience to support your well-being. And then the article dives into another really powerful strategy, shifting our focus to gratitude and appreciation.
Oh, I love this one. It's all about counting your blessings, right? Appreciating all the good things in your life rather than dwelling on what you don't have.
Exactly. The article even suggests a simple exercise. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. And studies have shown that practicing gratitude can have a really positive impact on our overall happiness and well-being.
It makes sense, right? When we're focused on all the good stuff, we have less mental space for negativity and comparison.
Totally. And Ruby, the mom who was comparing herself to other moms, started a gratitude journal where she would write down things she appreciated about her life and her children each day.
Oh, that's so sweet. And it probably helped her focus on the joy of motherhood instead of getting caught up in those negative comparisons.
It definitely did. And that brings us to the next important step, embracing your own pace.
Oh, I like that. It's about recognizing that everyone's journey is unique, right? There's no one-size-fits-all timeline for achieving our goals.
Exactly. The article reminds us that there's no need to rush or compare our progress to others. We each have our own path to follow, and that's perfectly okay.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. And when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, we miss out on appreciating the beauty of our own journey.
So true. And Marie, who was feeling pressured by her friends' relationship milestones, eventually realized this. She decided to focus on her own personal growth goals and acknowledge that her happiness didn't depend on following someone else's timeline.
Good for her. It's about finding your own rhythm and trusting the process.
Right, you got it. And then the article talks about celebrating your wins, both big and small.
Woo! Celebration time.
Exactly. It's about giving yourself a pat on the back and acknowledging those achievements, no matter how small they may seem.
We often downplay our accomplishments, right? Like, oh, it was nothing, or anyone could have done that. But the article encourages us to take a moment to really celebrate those wins and acknowledge how far we've come.
Totally. It's a great way to boost our self-confidence and feel good about our progress. Like Deborah, who is comparing herself to her executive friend, could celebrate finishing a big project by treating herself to a weekend getaway or something.
Ooh, I love that. A little self-care celebration. And by recognizing her own accomplishment, she can shift her focus away from comparison and feel a sense of pride in her own work.
Exactly. And finally, the last step the article outlines is remembering your unique strengths.
Yes, we all have something special to offer the world, right?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing what makes you, you. Appreciating your individual qualities, skills, and experiences. And the article even suggests making a list of your strengths and revisiting it whenever you feel inadequate or tempted to compare yourself to others.
Oh, I love that. It's like a little reminder of all the awesome things about yourself. And Jessie, who was struggling with body image, actually found this really helpful. She made a list of her strengths and kept it visible as a reminder, which helped her shift her focus back to her own journey and appreciate her own unique qualities.
It's such a simple but effective exercise. And, we've covered a lot of ground here already. We've explored why comparison happens, how it can affect us, and most importantly, some really practical strategies to break free from it.
It's been a super insightful discussion so far. I feel like we've gotten some really actionable advice on how to shift our mindset away from comparison and towards a more fulfilling and joyful journey.
Totally. So as we were talking about in the first part, comparison, it can be a real downer, right? But the good news is this article has a bunch more tips to help us celebrate our own awesome journeys.
That's what I like to hear. Practical advice that we can actually use to feel better about ourselves.
Absolutely. So the article starts off by saying, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come already.
Oh, I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in looking ahead to the next big goal that we forget to appreciate all the progress we've already made.
Right. Like we're always striving for something more, something better, and we forget to stop and celebrate those milestones along the way. It's like we're just running on this treadmill, always focused on what's next, and we never really take the time to savor those little victories.
It's so true. And when we do that, we miss out on that sense of accomplishment and pride that can really fuel our motivation and keep us moving forward.
Exactly. So the article encourages us to think about those challenges we've overcome, the goals we've achieved, even those small steps we've taken toward becoming the best versions of ourselves.
It's like giving ourselves a little pat on the back for all the hard work we've put in, and acknowledging that we're not starting from scratch every day.
Absolutely. And then the next tip is something I think is really important. Surrounding yourself with the right people.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. It's like who you spend time with really matters.
Right. It totally does. The article talks about those friends and loved ones who lift you up. Those people who encourage you to be your authentic self and celebrate your wins alongside you.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like having your own personal cheerleading squad who remind you of your awesomeness, even when you forget.
Right. And what's cool is the article says being around these supportive people creates an environment where comparison just kind of fizzles out,
It makes sense. If you're surrounded by people who love and accept you for who you are, you're less likely to feel the need to compare yourself to others. It's all about fostering those connections that nourish your soul and make you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, and then the next tip is all about setting personal goals.
Oh, goal setting, I love it. But what does the article say about it?
It's all about shifting away from those external expectations, the ones that society or other people might impose on us.
Oh, yeah, like the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing.
Exactly. It's about tuning into what truly matters to you, what lights you up, what makes you feel excited and motivated.
I see. So it's about designing a life that feels authentic to you, not one that's dictated by what other people are doing or achieving.
You got it. The article encourages you to explore your insheds, whether it's picking up a new skill, traveling to a new place, or deepening those connections with loved ones. It's about creating a life that brings you joy and fulfillment on your own terms.
I love that. It's about prioritizing your own happiness and well-being above all else.
Exactly. And finally, the article ends with a really important reminder. Practice kindness toward yourself. It's all about treating yourself with the same understanding and gentleness that you would offer a good friend.
Like, we're often so hard on ourselves, We beat ourselves up for our mistakes and dwell on our perceived flaws. But the article reminds us that we all make mistakes, we all have moments of self-doubt, and that's perfectly normal.
It's all part of being human. And instead of criticizing ourselves, we can choose to be gentle with ourselves, acknowledge our efforts, and celebrate our progress, even if it's not perfect.
It's about silencing that inner critic and replacing it with a voice of encouragement and support.
Exactly. Remember, you are worthy of love and acceptance exactly as you are, flaws and all.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive. It's been such a great conversation so far, and I feel like we've learned so much about comparison and how to, break free from it.
Absolutely. I mean, the stories we heard from Deborah, Marie, Jessie, and Ruby, they were just so inspiring. It really shows you that it's possible to overcome those feelings of inadequacy and find true happiness by embracing your own unique journey.
Totally. It's like a reminder that we're all in this together, right?
Right.
We all struggle with comparison at some point, but we can learn to celebrate our own awesomeness instead of getting bogged down by what everyone else is doing.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of some of the key takeaways that we can all use to move forward.
Okay, yeah. Like a little toolkit for fighting comparison and boosting self-confidence.
Perfect. So first and foremost, remember this. Comparison is a thief of joy.
It's so true. Like when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, we miss out on appreciating all the good things in our own lives.
Right. It's like we're so busy looking over the fence at our neighbor's yard that we forget to tend to our own garden.
Love that analogy.
So instead of chasing after someone else's definition of success or happiness, think about what truly matters to you. What are your passions, your values? What makes you feel fulfilled?
It's about defining success on your own terms, right? Not based on what society or anyone else tells you.
Exactly. Your journey is valuable simply because it's yours. Each step you take, each challenge you overcome, shapes you into the incredible person you are today.
And that's something to celebrate.
Right.
Like, acknowledge those efforts, appreciate how far you've come, and give yourself credit for all that hard work.
Absolutely. Celebrate those wins, big or small. And don't forget to surround yourself with people who support you, those friends and loved ones who lift you up and remind you of your strengths.
Your personal cheerleading squad. It's like having your own hype team who's always in your corner.
Exactly. They help you silence that inner critic and amplify that inner cheerleader.
Love it. Oh, and we can't forget about social media, right? Like, it's so easy to fall into that comparison trap when you're scrolling through everyone else's highlight reel.
Oh, for sure. It's important to be mindful of how social media makes you feel. Follow accounts that inspire you. Unfollow those that trigger those negative comparisons. And maybe even set some limits on your screen time.
Yeah, sometimes little social media detox can do wonders.
Totally. And maybe, most importantly, remember to be kind to yourself.
Self-compassion, yes.
We all have moments of self-doubt. We all make mistakes. It's part of being human. But it's how we handle those moments that matters.
Right, like instead of beating ourselves up, we can choose to be gentle and understanding with ourselves.
Exactly. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend who's feeling down. Offer yourself that same level of kindness and support.
It's about remembering that you are worthy of love and acceptance, just as you are, flaws and all. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. What are you proud of? What makes your path special and unique?
Yeah. What steps can you take today to embrace those unique strengths and celebrate the amazing person you are?
Remember, comparison really is a trap. But by shifting our focus inward, appreciating our own journey, and celebrating those wins, we can break free and discover true fulfillment and joy.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you found it helpful. And if this episode resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this with someone who might need to hear this message. Let's create a community of support where we can all empower each other to heal and grow and thrive. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. And remember, keep shining bright, you awesome humans, you.